90% of the time this is the way we'll go up. This is our prevailing wind.
So if I'm right then, you're always wanting to go into the wind?
Always wanting to go into the wind, yeah. A good day for us is the wind in our face all day, yeah. Without that, it's a very, very, very difficult day.
How big is the estate?
This estate is, we stock 8,000 acres. It's a good size for one person. A lot of the estates are neighbours, they're all much, much bigger. But we're just a small estate in amongst it.
So is that fenced?
No. The only fencing is the natural regeneration in the woodland. The rest is open hill. The deer are not controlled in any way. Some days you come up and there'll be lots of deer on your ground, and then other days you come up and there's not a single deer on your ground. Because of the wind and the weather, they know where to go. And some days in the rain you can be walking forever and you never see a deer.
So that's a key component then, isn't it? Because they are truly wild. They're not like wild within this 8,000 acres.
No, they're very wild in this ground. We see deer when we're up on the high tops. I see very few people a year up there. So yeah, there's no controlling of where the deer are going or where they've been. It's purely as nature.
So how do you start then? Do you have a hunch where they might be at a certain time of year, or?
Yes, that's the thing. Knowing your ground. Early on in the year, stags tend to group in areas that you kind of know where they'll be. With the wind, if it's really wild weather, they'll go to areas for shelter. So you kind of know with this wind or this rain they'll be where they are. And of course other times you're totally wrong, you get it all wrong, but yeah, you roughly have a rough idea of where they're going to be. The stags generally keep together in the summer, but come the rut at the end of the September, October, they all break out and they're all enemies and fight each other and trying to get the most females. So it really is different every day you come up.
So what you're actually doing is herd control, is that right?
That's exactly what we're doing. We're selective. We take the weak animals, the poor animals. Some years we have more animals, we shoot more. A few years back we lost a huge amount of our deer with a really bad winter. So we cut back the culling for 2 years, 3 years to keep a balance. Most people around here will shoot around roughly about 16%, and that keeps a good healthy herd of the animals on the ground. But we also don't just go by the numbers. Every year we do habitat surveys of the ground, and that tells us a lot. That tells us if we're too many deer, if there's low numbers. So the ground actually tells us the deer numbers as well, which is important to take heed of.
What do you mean by the ground tells you?
Well, areas are overgrazed. The heather's short, there's not enough grazing with animal overfeeding. That areas we'll select more animals from. Areas where there's lovely lush grass and heather, we can allow a healthy herd to stay there. So it's really important that it's not just the animal counting, we take heed of what's on the ground, because that teaches us a lot.
So how does a stalk begin?
The stalk and the decision is always done by the wind. The wind is the important thing for us. If the wind goes round in our back, our day is finished. We set off, hopefully keep the wind in our face every day. Hopefully we'll have an idea where the deer are and areas to go to. But it can go so wrong. Your day, you can go days and days without being successful, and other days you can be successful 2 or 3 times in the day. So it's all in the wind and the weather, and that determines the area we go to stalk is wind direction.
The sport then is finding them.
The skill's not in pulling the trigger, although it does take some skill. The skill is locating the deer and getting your stalking party in on the person that's shooting, is getting them into a position to shoot. That's where the skill is, and that's where the most enjoyment comes from us when we're taking guests, is getting a guest into that position very close. Animal welfare is always the utmost, so we try and get as close as we can into the deer for the guests shooting, because that's the important part, and that's where the great skill is in the stalk.
So do you know in advance what you want to shoot that day, or is it what you see on that day, or?
We don't shoot royals or big imperials. We try and go for the poorer heads, and if we get a really poor head, it's always a good day for us. And some days we go out. We've had 2 or 3 stalks on stags, and in the day, and they've all been too good, so we stalk back out and go and look for something else. So you never know what you're going to see before you go up, and very often with the weather you won't see anything. And other days you're lucky and have a good day.
So let's go back to the beginning then, and talk about how you start the stalk. The wind is the first thing.
Wind is the first thing.
So if we were stalking today, the first thing you would think about is wind.
Always, yeah.
And then you need to get into position,
yeah.
Or you need to get the wind. Are you always walking?
Yeah, you're doing a lot of stopping and spying, but you're walking pretty well all day, from when you leave till you get back, and climbing for a lot of it. Yeah, so it's tough days. It's different every time. It depends on the lie of the land where you are. It might be you have plenty cover to get in, so you'll always be on your feet. If it's on flat area, you've got a long crawl. You virtually go on your belly, crawling in to where they are, and a stalk can take 15 minutes and a stalk can take 4 hours, depending on where it is and how difficult a challenge it is. Sometimes you stalk an animal for a couple of hours trying to get in, and it catches a glimpse of you, hears you, gets a smell of you, and that's it, all over, they're away. So a lot of hours are wasted sometimes, but it's still, because you're on the stalk, it's so enjoyable.
So just take me through that in a little bit more detail. So you might see something in the distance, and then you've got to get closer.
You've got to make your plan from that moment, using the lay of the land to try and keep out of sight. Sometimes you've got to divert quite a bit off to the left or the right, or drop down to come up above them. It's always different. It's always different, and every area is different. If possible, we'll always try and get above them and come in from above. It makes it slightly easier for us, but that's very often not possible.
What's the distance for the actual shot?
The actual shot, we try and get as close as possible. We don't allow, our ideal range is 100 yards, 150 yards. We'll always try every effort to get into that. Once you get further out with these longer shots, you can't get, animal welfare is the most important thing. So we try and minimise the risk of an animal getting wounded, and we don't allow anyone to do long shots. We always try and get as close as we can. This is my 30th year stalking here, and it's every year so different with the thing, but really enjoyable.
Can you talk about the kind of humane nature of it then? It's not just blood sport.
No. The blood sport is not the thing. It's back to our basic instincts and the hunt. It's not about pulling the trigger. It's about the hunt and the stalk, the challenge of it. And if it goes wrong, it's just part of it.
How difficult is it?
It's very difficult. Sometimes it can be easy, and you think, wow, that worked well, and other times it just goes so wrong against you, and no 2 stalks are the same.
How good are the deer at evading you?
Very good. Excellent. Their sense of smell is amazing. They'll smell you a long way, and that's it. Game over, they're away. Their sight and hearing is good, but their sense of smell is really good, and if they get your wind, that's it. It's you've got a long walk to try and find another group of deer.
So that's the main thing. That's why the wind is so...
The wind is critical. The wind is everything. Without the wind, you just pack up and go home if it's swirling round. If the wind goes to your back, then in front of you is clear. there'll be no deer in front of you, unless they're stuck in a hollow and you've been very lucky. But generally, if the wind comes behind your head, that's it, day's over.
How far can they smell you away from?
Well, different people say different things, that they hear you a mile, they smell you a mile away and things like that. And it's probably true, they do. Sometimes you see them away in the distance and they take to their tails and run off. So they do smell you a long way off. Yeah, definitely. Stalking means everything. It's part of the history of the Highlands, tradition, goes back generations, and it's something we're very, very, very passionate about, and it's something we want to protect for future generations. It's really important that we treat it right, treat the animals with respect, do selective culling so it's here for generations to come. Some areas you hear of large culling going on, but here in this part of the Highlands and the West Coast, we're very selective.